Wow, stories.
I tell myself and those around me just about everything you've all commented, especially those putting the emphasis on me being pathetic and stupid. Trust me, y'all. I know I feel it too. I'm really sorry to those who felt this was rage bait. Typing it didn't come across nearly as unrealistic as reading it. And after reading it over and over and over, I recognized it. Unfortunately, this is my reality. I'm also sorry for coming across rude for further informing those insulting my intelligence. If there's one thing a professional counselor has taught me, vulnerability doesn't equate to stupidity. I understand I posted this on the internet, but man, I was not expecting this big of a blow-up. I noticed someone mentioned I posted this in 12 different subs, but I only posted this in relationship advice, and it seems to have been shared around by others. So while yes, I wanted feedback, I truly can't believe I got this much back. And again, I really appreciate all of those who have taken the time and energy to share their advice and opinions. I have received over 100 messages on top of these comments, so it's hard to get back to everyone. I apologize. Simply put, it was over before I made this post. I don't actually think I sabotaged my marriage. This post wasn't intended to make so many people mad. I wasn't looking for any sort of attention, hence why I'm on an anonymous site. This is for him, the man who says I ruined the marriage. I guess not only do I think it wasn't purely me, but over 400 of you have suggested the same. By the way, therapy is an amazing source for those who can access it, and I am fortunate enough to, but y'all have to stop thinking that is an option for everyone and the only way to heal. Thank you again for your time. My husband and I have been struggling for almost the entirety of our marriage. I'll be the first here to admit that our age does play a role in that. Today, he accidentally sent me a message about myself that was meant for his friend. She's mad at me because I tried to have intimacy with her when she was ovulating LMAO. I know this may sound dramatic, but I think I felt my heart break a little when I read that. I felt betrayed, disrespected, humiliated, and I can't help but to feel he wants his friends to think I'm crazy and that he's being emotionally tortured. He told me last year around this time that none of his friends liked me, which I wasn't really nice in response to. I think the whole group, including my husband, had a hard time adjusting to him being married and boundaries being put in place. For example, my cool wife card was revoked when I said, if his friends have nothing better to talk about other than banging chicks while around me, they're all in relationships, marriages, then they have no reason to be in my home. One of the wives won't even let the guys swear, but I'm supposed to listen to them brag about all the hot girls from high school. And taking turns sharing who'd they rather. Time and place, I guess. Strip clubs are also off the table, but the other guys sneak and go behind their wives' backs. I only know because they all thought I was young, hot, and cool in the beginning. That gained me the controlling title. It all led to him resenting me, because now he was missing out on all the single fun. He's told me he withholds intimacy from me as a punishment because he doesn't see his friends like he used to, which is in no way my fault. I'm good friends with one of the girlfriends, and she's told me that they don't really like to come around because all my husband wants to do is drink. One night when he was drunk, I asked him why he never fingered me anymore, and his response was, "It's just a hold F." After that, he said he felt awkward trying to have intimacy with me because he knew I'd just be thinking about that. So we went from twice a day every day to maybe once every couple of weeks. Oddly enough, I ended up pregnant. On my birthday last year, I started miscarrying. He had plans with his friends and didn't cancel. Instead, he let me drop them off at another's house. He kissed me goodbye and said, "Tell me what the doctors say." Fast forward 6 months, and none of his friends even knew I miscarried that day. That whole situation ate away at me for months, and I'd keep it to myself for the most part. But there were times I'd snap. I couldn't process the loss, but it also felt like I lost my husband that day too. He didn't choose me. He chose to watch football and get drunk. After a few months of the struggle, my parents came over to sort of mediate. And as soon as I started crying about the miscarriage and how he left me for his friends, he stood up over me and told me, "Steve, you're just looking for sympathy from them." Which my parents didn't respect that at all, but they chose not to intervene. Moving forward, we didn't move forward at all. Any advances I'd make towards him, he'd ignore. The most activity he was giving me was letting me give him handies. After many complaints, our schedule got busier to twice in 1 month. Yeah, I keep track. His brother and his wife had their baby we got pregnant at the same time with. And the day we met him, we came home, and after weeks of not touching me, he said, "Let's make a baby." And he started tracking my cycle, and intimacy became a bigger chore for him. He was forcing himself to have intimacy with me when I was ovulating because he thinks a baby will make me happy. So last night, he tried to make a move purely because I was ovulating, and this time, I denied him. I told him that I'm tired of him only wanting to have intimacy with me when I'm ovulating. His response was, "When do you think I'm supposed to want to have intimacy with you?" I responded back every day and left the room crying. Then today, while he was at work, he sent me the accidental message. When I asked him this evening why it's his goal to make me look so crazy to his friends, it turned into a big fight. Have I sabotaged my marriage? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You haven't sabotaged your marriage, he has. He sounds extremely immature, and like he's not actually ready to be in a committed relationship. You deserve to have a husband who respects you, and his behavior indicates that he doesn't. If the man can't even support you when you're going through a miscarriage, and instead prioritizes getting drunk with his friends, he's clearly demonstrating what's most important to him. You can do better, and you deserve better. If he's not willing to change and grow up, you might as well leave him instead of wasting your youth with a man who's making you miserable. Comment 2. Working with the information you've provided, I'd say if anything, he's the one who sabotaged the marriage. If I were you, I would not want to have a child with this man, for fear of him being a terrible father. The way he's behaved is childish. I'm so sorry you're in this situation. How much support do you have outside the relationship in case things go south from here? Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me through all this. So, after that accidental message, things took a turn I didn't expect. The next day, I decided to confront him about it. I was tired of feeling like the villain in my own marriage. I asked him straight up why he felt the need to make me look bad to his friends. He got defensive, of course, and it turned into another argument. He said he was just venting and didn't mean anything by it. But it didn't feel like just venting to me. It felt like a betrayal. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the times he had put his friends above me, all the times he had made me feel like I was the problem. I realized that I'd been trying so hard to make things work that I had lost sight of my own worth. I decided that I needed to take a step back and figure out what I really wanted. The next day, I called my best friend and told her everything. She was shocked and angry on my behalf. She reminded me that I deserved better than this, that I deserved to be with someone who respected me and valued me. It was a wake-up call. I realized that I had been settling for less than I deserved because I was afraid of being alone. That evening, I sat down with my husband and told him that I needed some space. I told him that I was tired of feeling like I was always the one trying to make things work, that I needed him to step up and show me that he cared. He didn't take it well. He accused me of giving up on our marriage, of not trying hard enough, but I stood my ground. I told him that I wasn't giving up, that I was just taking a step back to figure things out. The next few days were tough. We barely spoke to each other and the tension in the house was obvious. But I felt a sense of relief. For the first time in a long time, I was putting myself first. I started going for walks, spending time with friends, and focusing on my own well-being. It felt good to take care of myself, to do things that made me happy. On the third day, something unexpected happened. My husband came home from work and told me that he had been thinking about what I said. He admitted that he had been taking me for granted, that he had been putting his friends above me because he was afraid of losing them. He said that he realized now that he had been wrong, that he wanted to make things right. I was skeptical at first. I had heard him say things like this before, only to go back to his old ways. But there was something different in his eyes this time. He looked genuinely remorseful, like he had finally realized the impact of his actions. He asked if we could go to couples therapy, if we could work on our marriage together. I agreed, but I told him that it would take time for me to trust him again, that he would have to show me through his actions that he was serious about changing. Over the next few days, he made an effort to spend more time with me, to listen to me, and to show me that he cared. It wasn't perfect, and we still had a long way to go, but it was a start. I started to see glimpses of the man I fell in love with, the man who used to make me feel like I was the most important person in his life. As we started to rebuild our relationship, I couldn't help but think about our past. I remembered the early days of our marriage when we were so in love and full of hope for the future. I thought about the miscarriage and how it had changed everything, how it had driven a wedge between us. I realized that we had both been grieving in our own ways, that we had both been hurting and didn't know how to support each other. I also thought about my own role in our problems. I had been so focused on trying to make things work that I had lost sight of my own needs. I had been afraid to stand up for myself, to demand the respect and love that I deserved. I realized that I needed to be more assertive, to communicate my needs and boundaries clearly. As we continued to work on our marriage, I started to see changes in my husband. He was more attentive, more present, and more willing to listen. He started to open up about his own fears and insecurities, about how he had been struggling with the pressure to be the perfect husband and friend. It was a revelation for both of us. We realized that we'd been holding on to unrealistic expectations, that we needed to be more honest and vulnerable with each other. One night, as we were talking about our future, he told me that he wanted to start fresh, to build a new foundation for our marriage. He said that he wanted to be the husband that I deserved, that he wanted to make me happy. It was a turning point for us. We decided to let go of the past and focus on building a better future together. We started going to couples therapy, and it was a game changer. We learned how to communicate better, how to support each other, and how to rebuild trust. It wasn't easy, and there were still moments of doubt and frustration, but we were committed to making it work. As we navigated this new chapter in our marriage, I couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. For the first time in a long time, I felt like we were on the same team, like we were working towards a common goal. It was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is always a chance for redemption, for healing, and for growth.